Hey, it's Zach here, and this is another blog entry that I'm doing, vlog entry. And right now, in this video I just want to talk about myself really, and where I'm at in life and what I'm doing, and I want to start talking more about what I get up to on a day-to-day basis, especially now. And right now I'm in this lovely public footpath area. There's like nobody else around, and I'm gonna go and meditate underneath that tree. In a bit. So why am I making this video? Well, I'm going for a lot. I think all of us are going for a lot, or many of us are going for a lot. I'm at this point right now in my life where I'm right in the middle of my Saturn return. And the Saturn return happens when you're 28 and a half years old, thereabouts. And I'm currently 2 months away from being 29, so I'm in the thick of it. And the Saturn return represents, or one way of describing it is a pruning of your life. Peeling away the parts of yourself that are no longer going to be in alignment karmically to what you came here to do in this life. And I can feel that. There's certain things that I've put myself through this year that have helped me understand where I am and where I want to go. One of the main things I realized was, though, it was 5 years ago to this date, or thereabouts, that I had my first ever one-on-one channeling session. This channeling session was with Adronis of Sirius, channeled by Brad Johnson. And Adronis told me about, I asked, what am I here to do? Like, what's my highest potential in this life? What does my soul yearn for? And I was told, well, courses and coaching, creating courses and offering coaching to people, specifically around healing, emotional healing. And that in order for me to align to that path, I needed to let go of certain things I had within myself, certain feelings of being a dreamer who cannot manifest his dreams. Someone who I'm at this point now where 5 years on, and I've been aware of that the whole time. I was like, oh yeah, coaching, that sounds great. But even at the time, I didn't feel entirely ready. And a lot of that was to do with the fact that I still had a lot of blocks within myself, specifically from childhood and my upbringing and my ideas around money and how much abundance I had within myself and the blocks to that abundance. And these blocks that I've had have essentially had me for pretty much all of my life up to date, chasing success outside of myself, feeling like in order for me to be successful, in order for me to be loved or to feel loved, I needed to have money. And I realize now fully, like, that was a trap. It always has been a trap. Because true success comes from within. True success is nothing external from yourself. And so I went about chasing money, chasing and relying upon things and systems and people outside of myself in order to bring me this feeling of abundance that I wanted. My idea was, oh yeah, I can be this coach, I can create these courses, but I just want to have all this money to start with so that I can support myself and be able to pursue that passion like full time. But any of you who know about the law of attraction know that that is a completely backwards way of doing it. Really, it is your passion, it's your heart's calling that when pursued, that's what's going to bring you the success. And now, the interesting thing as well is it's not so much about the money. Of course, money comes when you're in alignment with yourself and your own true desires and calling. But even then, it's not about the money. It's about helping people. If you're going into something like this, especially when it's to do with something to do with spirituality or healing in general, it needs to be about service to others. And the interesting paradox is the more that you help others, the more that you receive. And so, as I said, I'm now 5 years down the line, and the entire time I knew, oh yeah, I've had this coaching idea, yeah, one day I'll get there, I'll do that. But let me just be able to financially stabilize myself first in order to be able to do that. And yeah, it just led to trap after trap. Oops, shit. There's a tractor. I hope I don't get kicked off. Farmers around here can be very, yeah. And yeah, so I'm really put off by this tractor now. And so why was I rejecting myself this whole time? Why was I leading myself into these essentially traps, one after the other, thinking, oh yeah, that idea will bring me the kind of financial security that I'm looking for so that I can pursue my passions full time. And yeah, it's time after time I can see that as a pattern that I created for myself. And all of this really stemmed down to the idea that I was rejecting myself. That's essentially what I was doing. Feeling like a dreamer who couldn't manifest his dreams. Someone who didn't have the emotional reliance upon himself to feel like he could successfully be his own boss and not rely upon others or external means. And where did this come from? It came from my childhood. Like, my dad was very much the same. My dad with his dad, my granddad was always very much, well, it still is, very much of that kind of older generation where, you must go through school, then you must get a good, well-paying job. And I mean, no disrespect to him, I love him to bits, but it's just the way of that kind of generation's mentality and knowing and understanding. And so my dad, yeah, he, in his own kind of rebellious way, and it wasn't really for him. He wanted to be a motorcycle mechanic, and so he became a motorcycle mechanic, but much to the distaste of my grandparents, because to them that just almost wasn't enough. And so that then led to my dad growing up and rejecting himself, feeling like, oh, I'm not worthy enough because my parents don't see me as worthy. They don't see my own inner success as to what I could do and what I feel I want to do. They want me to be different. And so through them wanting him to be different, he then rejects himself. And so then I come along, I'm born. And then in my early years growing up and as a child, you absorb this kind of mentality, this kind of feeling like, again, I adopted that feeling of being a dreamer who cannot manifest his dreams from my father. And I carried it with me. And it wasn't just that kind of feeling of inadequacy as I was going about my childhood, because I felt only as good in a lot of ways as my parental figure or figures. That vibration that I was carrying reflected out, of course, and then the universe gave it back to me, and it came in the form of bullies. Not horrendous amounts, but enough for me to really to put me down even further than I already was. And yeah, so being bullied throughout school pushed me down further. I didn't have the tools at the time to deal with that. I didn't realize what I needed to do in order to kind of overcome those states of consciousness and those reflections that I was receiving back. I didn't, to me, I just felt very little of myself. And then I went about my life, carried on. I went to college. I got Student of the Year award for highest academic achievement. I got triple distinction. Then I went on to uni, smashed it. I got a first degree, the best you can get. And then it came in, I went back home from uni, feeling very accomplished, but that feeling of self-rejection then came in, like feeling like, oh, my family is X, so I will only ever be X. Again, only coming from my own level of consciousness at the time. Not able to see beyond what I was feeling at the time and to be able to harness and witness and fully feel my own personal greatness. And so instead of going off to London to find that job that was related to my university degree, I chose to go back home and I got a graphic design job, which was still cool. And yeah, that was all right. But it was still coming from essentially a weak part of myself, feeling like I could be doing better. I could be creating based on the skill set that I'd just learned, but I didn't. I went down a different path. And so then 3 years later, 2015 comes about, and then I have this channeling session with Adronis. And yeah, Adronis really highlighted to me, reflected back to me where I was, and told me what I could do in order to get to this kind of frequency of this alignment of becoming a coach and a mentor as such. And yeah, at the time it was like, whoa, that feels way out of my depth. I didn't feel like I had the knowledge, like the spiritual knowledge or even wisdom at that time to be able to pursue it. Yet still, that was the opportunity then. It was an opportunity then for me to get started, but I didn't really fully appreciate at that time as well in 2015 the importance of how once we process our childhood traumas and our childhood negativities in that way, the things that have brought us down in our consciousness. And yeah, I just didn't realize that if I just done my inner work, my inner child work, it would have completely changed my life from the inside out. And so then I went, and then, as I said, I went then and carried on for the next 5 years, essentially chasing success outside of myself, rejecting myself in that way, feeling like I couldn't fully be my own boss. And in that time, I started my own business, and that business is still going. And so I feel that's a great sense of achievement that I have there. For sure, I went out and I did that. But at the same time, I never really got down to that inner child work. I knew I had to do it, but I didn't really realize the significance of it. And so it even reflected in my relationships as well in the past 5 years. Not aligning myself to that higher level of frequency that was available and a potential for me led me to attracting relationships that were more, still in that kind of insecure, unworthy kind of feeling within myself. And it was that insecurity that essentially the universe, my romantic partners would then reflect that insecurity back to me. And whether that was, seeing, just emotional cheating or betrayal in that way, like not being fully committed, because who wants to be with someone who's insecure? Because that insecurity I was projecting out as well, and it was causing a disharmony. And so now this year is my Saturn return, as I said, and I'm really at the point now where I realize it's now or never. If I don't do this inner child work now and raise my frequency up and align myself to that way of being a coach, then I'll miss a lot of opportunities. And I'm sick and tired of living the life that I've been living. I thought it would work. I thought that I'd be able to create this success from my vibrational standpoint that I was in the whole time. And it didn't really get to where I wanted it to be. It got close a few times, and there was many times where I catapulted myself and then I'll go back down again, and I'll catapult myself and go back down again in my vibration, and distracting myself as well through addictions, through numbing myself in general, just unwilling to face that inner turmoil that was always there. And so I'm here now, and for the past week I've dived headfirst into my inner child healing from my childhood, and it's been profound. It really has. It's been quite amazing. I've already felt a lift within myself. I've released through embracing those parts of myself with love. I've released and freed myself. I've become more boundless. I've opened up my eyes to greater opportunities that I wouldn't have felt before had I not done this work. And I realize as well that for me to become a coach, I really do need to walk the talk. And that's what I'm doing. It's really important, because it's like, say for example, you get a business mentor into your business to help you to see things from a different perspective and things like that. Well, you wouldn't want to hire a business mentor that's never really been in business before or hasn't gained any wisdom about business practice in general. And the same thing applies to being a healing coach or a success coach. And I fully realize that. And the thing is, with this emotional healing, it doesn't just improve how you feel about yourself. It also improves your career. It also improves your relationship. Most importantly, it improves your relationship with yourself. Because all of those other things, your career, your relationships, whether romantic or business or whatever, they're all reflections of how you're feeling inside. And so if you've got that amazing relationship with yourself, that is the key. That's what's going to bring you that success within. So this is what I'm doing right now. Diving headfirst into these memories that I have, shifting layer by layer with already a profound effect. And coming out in nature as well, grounding, lying down, just grounding to the earth. Powerful stuff. So, yeah. It's hard as well for me. Of course, the mind will always play games and look at the past, your linear past, and we'll see, oh, you could have done this and things could have been different. You could have done your inner work earlier, like years ago, and you'd be in a totally different space right now. And yeah, the mind is going to beat itself up about that and beat you up in the process. And that's where that story that we tell ourselves, if we can just reframe it. For example, for me, yes, the past 5 years, I didn't align myself to what I was prompted to in that channeling session. Not fully. And I tried multiple times, but didn't really fully understand what I needed to do in order to get there. And so what's the positive? How can I reframe this belief that I have around this negative belief I have around these past 5 years? Well, in one way, I've learned a lot. I've constantly been studying spirituality, philosophy, healing, emotional healing, different modalities, really gathering a lot of knowledge and even starting to apply that and turning it into wisdom. And so in that way, that's a real positive, because where I am now with my understandings is so much more than where I was 5 years ago. And I'm ready to take the plunge. I'm ready to do it. But I know that before I make any kind of decisions, I want to get to a much better place in my inner world, with that inner child healing, because that's the only way that I'm gonna, I'll be a completely different version of myself then. I really will. This version that you're seeing right now will essentially die. And there'll be a much more self-assured, secure, stable, happy within himself, loving, compassionate Zach. Even more than he is now. And that's how I'm going to create what I intend to create. And so I'm just going to let it happen. I'm really glad that I can make this video, because it's something that I've had on my mind for a while. It's quite a long one, 25 minutes now. But it's important for me to express this. I feel like if I don't express this, then I'm just going to be lying to myself, not being totally authentic to what's going on. And I know as well that what people really want to hear about, they don't want to hear about, oh, what you're teaching as such. What they really want to hear about is the juicy stuff. What's going on in your personal life? What's going on with you in general? What do you get up to on a day-to-day basis? Things like that. Who do you listen to? Who do you watch? What inspires you? Who do you want to talk to? Things like that. And I can feel myself moving more into that. I mean, this video itself is a massive catalyst for that. It's like I've just released a load of myself into this video. Deep, very vulnerable stuff. And it feels good. So, here is one day to the rest of your life. Yeah. Anyway, that tree is calling me, so let's go over that. I probably shouldn't keep this video going on for much longer, so I'm not going to. And thank you very much for watching, and I feel like getting this load off my chest now is going to help me start to be able to talk more about other things that I'm going through. And also, considering that me sharing this now is... Me sharing this now... what was I going to say? Stinging nettles everywhere. Hello. Big tree. Wow. Forgot what I was going to say. But yeah. Feels good. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'm going to cut the video off now. And I'll share more in time. Thank you. Bye.